I have a firm belief that the discovery call is the most important conversation you're going to have with the prospect. I mean, think about it. You're going to understand everything you need to be able to help them make an informed decision. You can't just jump in and talk about features and benefits. And on today's episode, my guest, Jessica, is going to break down how she does an effective discovery call and some of the things that you could take and apply to improve your discovery calls. Ooh, we're going to the disco, baby. Let's dive in. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this podcast today, we have the one and only Miss Jessica Schultz. And you're going to get a chance to connect with Jessica. You can find her information to LinkedIn down below. But Jessica runs an organization that focuses on helping RevOps team and organization just master their RevOps. Company is called Amplify Group. You can find more details about them below. Jessica comes with years of experience, not only as a leader, but as an individual contributor, and she has some insights that can really help you when it comes to the discovery calls. One of the things that she just loves and geeks out about just as much as I do. On today's podcast episode, she'll break down some of the things that she does internally in her organization and how you can adopt these. If this is your first time listening to our podcast, our show is designed to do two things. One, help you to 3 to 5x your sales pipeline with quality opportunities. And two, help you to close twice as many deals. If that sounds like fun and you know somebody else that can benefit from that, go ahead and share the link to this episode. Now, as we dive into the content today, you get a chance to connect with Jessica, meet her as an individual, learn about her firm and what she does on a day-to-day basis, but specifically how she's using discovery calls and how you can master and improve your discos. Let's go in. Jess, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for your insights today. Discovery call is something I feel is like the heart of a sales process, like of the sales process. Like if you don't have a good discovery, many bad things can happen. And if that discovery is not doing well, you could have issue with your overall tenure as a sales rep. So,
yes.
Jess, I want to, before we dive into that, I bragged about you a little bit in a teaser. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. I'm the founder and CEO of Amplify. Just started the company in February of last year. So we're small and mighty and growing. But we work with startups and SMBs to help them with all things go-to-market and RevOps. So I usually say like the simplest way to break it down is we help with all things marketing, sales, customer success, people, process, and technology.
Awesome. Love it. It sounds like you got your handful. There's some good stuff there.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. And all of those areas are like the basic things. If you think about it from like whether it's a startup or an established, SMB, like you go to market is one of those places that they've probably dropped the ball on. And I can tell you that usually what happens is that they'll do, perhaps they got some business, especially if they're SMB and they're not growing, they've gotten business and they stay with that process, which maybe is through some network. They got a little bit of market share, not too big, go to networking events, but they don't have a straight strategy or plan. And I think that's where the magic comes in when you implement stuff that you're doing with RevOps. So
yeah, my mom calls what you just mentioned successful in spite of themselves. And I'm like, yeah, I see a lot of that. Like somehow they're like at 4 million in revenue or something. And then you look at, there's no process, there's no reports. And you're like, damn, I don't know how you did that, but.
It's like, just, standing out in a rainstorm and never getting struck by lightning with a metal 5-foot antenna. Let's dive in. Let's talk about this. The discovery process. I expressed how I felt about discovery. Talk to me how you feel about the discovery process.
Yeah, super important, right? It's your first interaction, your first impression, and that's true for any relationship, and sales is a relationship. So, it's like a first date. You want it to go well.
Yeah.
Leave a good impression.
It's just, and I think people go into that meeting without necessarily like the strategy. Like they just
Correct.
see it. I got a call. Like now it's just like, it's a 50-50 chance. I might get this. I might not get it. But no, not necessarily. There's a plan to make this work. and I want to learn from you on that. What does it take to make a good discovery? So you talk about this idea of the fail fast, figure out if they're fit
Hmm.
or not. Can you go deeper into that for me?
Sure. Yeah, I think as especially as new sales reps, and I was like this at first too, you can get to your point like so excited about just getting a meeting that um, you want to hang on to a opportunity that maybe really isn't going anywhere, and then you end up spinning your wheels and wasting a lot of time, not necessarily on that first call, but in a lot of subsequent follow up or a lot of subsequent like chasing that opportunity that your time is much better spent on real qualified opportunities. I did the same thing as a new rep. So I try to coach all of our clients reps not to make that mistake. So just really try to figure out like your goal of the discovery call should not be to move them forward. Your goal of the discovery call should be qualify or disqualify them. Is this worth my time and energy or not? And you want to find that out as quick as possible so you can put your time and energy where you're going to get the most ROI.
Why do sales reps don't, in your view, you work with teams, do you find, and I may be putting words in your mouth now, and maybe you can direct me properly, do you find that sales reps go with that notion, like this is, a closing call, or ignore that idea of the fit or no fit, even though, people know the title is discovery. We're going to figure stuff out here.
Mm-hmm.
But do you see that often? Do you see that regularly? Is it,
Oh yeah.
or maybe most salespeople know that?
I think maybe even more so people are, I would guess, more susceptible to that right now in this environment because it's so hard to
Why
close
is that?
any deal. It's just harder to close deals now. Like there's tons of
Yeah.
reports out there, right? That reps, I just saw something from SaaStr this week that only 18% of companies have reps at 70% or more of quota right now. And we're halfway through the year. Like that's crazy. But I mean, it's just tough economic climate. So I could see, reps maybe getting a little more thirsty right now, right? Because it's just so it causes bad behavior sometimes. But yeah, I think you're right. Some people go into it like I'm going to shove a square peg in a round hole, whether it fits or not, versus really trying to figure out is this do I have a square hole and a square peg? Like, does this actually fit? And in the long run, that will just, again, not just waste your time as a sales rep, but then even if you do somehow get the square peg in the round hole, it's not going to make for a good customer experience. And then you're going to have customer loyalty and issues and maybe churn. So like all around, it's just not good. It's not good short term or long term to try to force something that's not a fit, is my view.
Yeah. How do I establish what is a fit or not? I mean, I guess, everyone may have that. Is there a particular strategy or a phraseology that you utilize as you're going out?
Well, we really try to work with customers, and I encourage everyone to do this, right? Like, really spend time honing in on your ICP and what, like, the specific value props that your problem solves for that ICP, and not in all cases everyone's going to buy for the same reasons. For example, I sold PEO solutions for a bit. I think you and I talked about that on our prep call. And some people would buy our solution, like when I was a seller in that world, some people would buy it because the benefits were better. And it didn't matter. Like there was 5 or 6 value props as to why you might partner with the PEO. But some people just came to us because the benefits were better and they wanted better benefits. And all the other value prop statements didn't matter, right? And some people just bought because they wanted operational efficiency and the benefits were pretty much the same. And so like, I don't think you're always going to have people buying for the same motivation, but you should know what those motivations are. And there should at least be one core value prop that you're identifying like true alignment with in your discovery call. So, I mean, that's how I think about it, but that requires a lot more fleshing out of your ICP and your value prop statements and matching your buyer to your value prop statements. So I don't think enough companies spend time doing that. It's too frequently that when I say, who's your ICP, I hear, oh, we sell into enterprise. And I'm like, that's cute. That's way too broad. Like, we need to like pick an industry. We need to define enterprise. Do you even have the same definition as enterprise as I do? Like, so people don't spend enough time doing that, in my opinion.
Google and McDonald's are both could be considered enterprise, but
Yeah,
they're totally two different ballparks there, right?
correct.
So fascinating there. Um, what do you send? You talk about before the call. You send stuff. What do you send before the call? I mean, how do I prep for a discovery call? I mean, they booked the appointment already. Just what else am I going to try
Yeah.
to ruin this with messing it up? Let's just let a good thing. Don't ruin a good thing. Just let's go. Talk
Um,
to you in a week.
I feel you, but again, it's like fail fast, right? If all of a sudden you send stuff before and they're not interested, then like at least you didn't waste 30 minutes. Time is money.
Hmm.
So I personally like to send if you have a flyer, like a one pager or a short sales deck, I wouldn't send them a long sales deck, but like a 7 to 10 page deck or something, um, like 12 to 24 hours before the meeting. Because, and I will preface it because almost all of us, we're going to schedule a discovery call. That's going to be 30 minutes. 30 minutes flies. Um, so my goal of sending something before, and I'll say it in the email, but I won't send it when I schedule the meeting. I will wait till 12 to 24 hours before, but like looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow. I thought since we only have 30 minutes together and I want to make the most of our time because I know your time's valuable, I thought I'd share a little bit of information, additional information about what we do and how we help folks so that you can take a look at this before our call if you have time. And that way I can spend the majority of our call answering your questions. Because I guess another thing I believe is a lot of good sellers will go into it right and know this call should be about them and not about you. You want to ask questions, you want them to talk more than you do, and you want to ask them questions. But if they scheduled a call with you, they also want to get something out of it. So you don't want to spend the whole time talking, asking them questions, and then they walk away and they're like, well, I just told her my whole life story, but I don't really even know what she does. So I want to leave like room for them to walk away feeling like, okay, I know what she does. I know how she could potentially help me. Or if she can't help me, I know who she does help or when it makes sense to call her in the future. So like anyway, I like sending that, and people I've found really that resonates well. Like they're like, "Thank you for sending it." And then when we get on the call, I'm like, "Is there anything like again, want to make the most use of your time today? I'm so excited to learn more about you and your business. I've prepared some questions that I'd love to ask you, but before I dive into my, Q&A, is there anything that stood out to you in the deck that you'd really like to make sure I address today? Do you have any questions? Is there just anything that like burning desires that I can address while we have these 30 minutes? And then while I'm asking my questions and whatever, I can get all of their questions answered. And I just think it's a more effective use of time. Um, and then, or I guess I'll just shut up. That was your question, and I answered
No,
it.
yeah, this is good. No, I love the example, and I love how you kept going down deeper with that,
Yeah.
and I like the idea of that deck. And if there, you kind of give us a little bit of insights about what's in that, and I'm sure folks can hit you up if they want to get a little bit deeper about what exactly is in your deck or a sample or whatnot. But I even as you're talking, I was thinking even I don't know if it necessarily, maybe I'm wrong, but you can correct me. It doesn't, maybe not necessarily if it's a deck that you do, but maybe it's even like you're a big fan of video, and I know we talk about that too.
Yep.
Even if it's like a video, like a quick 2 minutes, here's what we do,
Totally.
and you show them on slides. Like there's the idea, the principle though, is that you send something, and the majority of us don't do it because again of the fear that it might mess it up, or I don't have time, or some of these things. But that's what separates a good seller. Like it's those little things that can really elevate you if you're going up against, and in any of the deals now, if most companies are being cautious of what they're spending, don't, I mean, you're gonna have competition. How can you,
Hmm.
this is a great way to separate yourself, and I just find it like it's powerful. Jess is a consultant. She gave me the stuff, she prepped me, and this other one is just coming in as an order taker trying to get a deal. So
Hmm.
that would make a
And
big difference
like
for me. So
shows that you really respect their time too, right? Like
of course,
their
yeah.
time and their agenda. Like you're taking your time out of your day for me. How can I make this most valuable for you? Because I like
Yes.
personally, I
And
hate when I get on the call and I'm like, God, this is so disorganized. There's no agenda. I'm walking away. I don't even know what's next. Like, it's like,
you're like, ah.
yeah, so frustrating. So,
um, here's the one thing that I want to think about. You talked about this idea of identify what they what matters most to them. So this goes back to the concept of now you prep me for the call. I know some of these questions I'm going to ask. I'm going to, be willing to share or divulge more information at this point,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that you're a consultant and you're not just like trying to, fish for an order taker. You're an order taker just fishing. You come, you, I'm able to share more of my deep, dark secrets, so to speak, or knowing that the outcome of what you're trying to accomplish. And I'm going somewhere with this. You mentioned this idea now of using quotes or taking the quote from the prospect
Mm.
and utilizing that in your sales effort. How does that work? Is that part of your plan, like, to help them to start talking, or am I just overthinking it? But going to talking to me about
Yeah.
the quote idea.
Yeah, this was something I learned from one of my sales managers, my best sales manager. But he always taught me, he's like,
Shout out to the best sales manager.
yeah, Rashad Lightsey. um, but he always taught me, he's like, take a question-based selling approach. He's like, ask questions, but he's like, document their answers, and that you're going to use those answers in the proposal, not in the discovery call. But for example, we would, I hope any good salesperson is asking, like, what are your goals for this year? What's your budget? What's your team look like? What are your biggest challenges right now? What are you struggling to get accomplished? Like open-ended questions that are going to cause them to talk. Well, if the person tells you, yeah, it's one of our, top 3 OKRs this year to implement a new benefits solution by the end of the year, by way of example, right? Then when I go into my proposal and I'm like, I'm suggesting that we align this change for an October start date. Based on what you told me, this is a top 3 OKR for you this year to get accomplished. So this is why we need to start it in October, because if we don't start it in October, you're not going to accomplish your OKR this year. So it's like not using their words against them in a bad way, but using like, you told me this was important to you, or you told me you had budget for this, or you told me this would be the deciding factor. So here it is. Now what? It's like challenging in a good way.
Yeah, and I think in that vein, like it helps to go back to what you said before, the whole prep thing. It makes it feels that, one, you listened to me, you really respected
Yeah.
my time. Two, you're a professional. And three, dang it, I didn't realize how big of a problem this is, Jess. Yes, let's go forward, because sometimes we say stuff, but we don't necessarily know all the words that we, I say a lot of stuff on this podcast, and you too. I can't. You ask me an hour later what we said, I can't remember exact details until I
Yeah.
re-listen to it. And the same idea, like, I'm not going to remember everything on that discovery call when there's like 3 of us and you're asking questions and whatnot, but I may have shared stuff that you can then come back to. Donald, you mentioned that the expansion by 2025 is going to be critical to the organization.
Mm-hmm.
How, if you don't do anything now, how is that going to
Right.
impact that?
How are you going to
I didn't put the
achieve
two
your goal?
together.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So love this concept. How do I go about practicing that on a consistent basis? Because it can be easy to I hear this on a podcast and it sounds great, but what's a activity you would do, or that your boss, was it Rashad,
Mm-hmm.
encourage you to do, to make sure you do this, that you can pass on?
Well, I love tools like Fireflies or Otter. Like there's tons of
Gotcha.
them out there now, right? Gong, that record your calls. Cause to your point, we all have so many conversations. So like personally, I always use tools like that. And now they do great transcription, like, written transcription too after the call. So I'll always go back to my notes, go back to those recordings before I present my proposal for sure, and re-listen to everything and refamiliarize myself. And then another thing I always do is like a really tight proposal, which that comes later, of course, but right, like, and another, like, I guess, framework that I learned from a former employer was bottom line up front. So most of us are selling to executives or people with purchasing power, or else we wouldn't, they wouldn't be the buyer. But so those people in general, right, like myself included, I'm a CEO. I want the bottom line up front. Like, don't talk to me for 45 minutes and then throw the price in at the end. Like, just get to the meat, and then you can go. So anyway, so that's another thing, like I've always tried to, and I still do. I'm like, okay, bottom line up front, this is going to require a $50K investment. And then in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about why that is and the rationale for why I think this has a good ROI and this is the right thing to do for your business. And in the bottom
Yeah.
line up front, hopefully and throughout my then conversation, I'm tying it back to things they told me in the disco call.
Yeah, if you don't do that and you're just trying to play that surprise game, it's like it's gonna suck for you. Like, and people are gonna not appreciate you. They're gonna not appreciate the time. And then I get some people say, "Well, you're focusing on." It's not focusing on the price. It's not rocket freaking science. Like, and especially like you said, right? You probably have given them an idea or range, maybe in a disco,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's just like, here's the details from everything we talked about. This is what it's going to be, and this is how we're going to go about making it happen. And
Yeah.
if your disco was, and I think the situation where we find that is when you have those poor discos, right?
Yes.
Go back to what you're saying, where the disco is really just like, you know, uh, quick about our company. Let's go into a demo and get a proposal over to you, rather than gathering the real good information, so I can make a good use case on why we feel, based on the value prop, that this is going to help you too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Great insights there. The follow-up, that's the next component here. Follow-up with the prospect, and then videos. You mind talking to that a little bit here?
Yeah. Um, so one, I say follow up within 24 hours, preferably by the end of the day that you talk to them. Like I always try to make that a point. I know sometimes though we all have too much going on. So then my worst case scenario is that I follow up within 24 hours. Um, and I always follow up with additional information, even if I disqualified the prospect. So this is maybe something I do different than other people too, because in my opinion, you should still send them the information because they might talk to somebody else next week that could use your solution, or they might file it away and open that email again in 3 months when they are a fit. So I just think there's no harm in like sending them additional information. And I'll say that like, great talking to you today. I know it wasn't a fit for you right now, but I still thought I'd share some additional information about our services and the pricing in the event that you talk to anyone or that this is a fit in the future. So I always do that. And then video, like we talked about, I think a lot of people have started adopting video in prospecting, which I love, and it is very effective as reported by many, outlets. But I think you can use it beyond just prospecting and opening a door. So as many of us know too, we're selling to a buying center, not one buyer. So we might talk to whoever, the head of HR, well, then they have to go talk to their boss and the CFO and whoever else. Or even if I'm talking to a founder CEO that is the decision maker, they usually still out of respect want to socialize it with their executive team, right? Even if ultimately they're going to make the decision anyway. And so when you're leaving it to someone else that doesn't know your product or service the way you do, to have to re-articulate to their team what you do, you are failing. So you have to give, like, it the best, you're the best at articulating it. You have to give them the words. And I think many of us too, right? TLDR is not an acronym for no reason. It's because we're all busy and we don't want to read. And so I like to do a short little video after too. And I'll usually offer it up on the disco call. Like, hey, I'm sure you're going to have to share this with other members of your team. I am going to send you some information, but would it be helpful if I included a short 2 to 3 minute video of me just recapping the high level summary of our call? And every time they're like, oh my God, yes, thank you. And I've heard really positive feedback from my buyers about that. They're like, that was so helpful. I just forwarded it to my team. They all watched the video. We huddled up on our next team meeting about it. And it was super easy to move forward because I didn't have to like stumble over my words trying to explain what you did. It was all in your own words. And that was just super effective. So like, I think again, that's just like a time, respect, and efficiency thing.
Oh, love this. Love this. Jess, we can go on for days with this. So many great insights here about the discovery call, so many notes taken, so many things pointed out here. And I know, folks, as you're listening to this, you're going to go back and I would recommend you save this episode so you can, just like refresh every time you go in for a disco, maybe once a week or whatnot, once a month. Jess, if folks out there listening to you want to learn from you or to connect with you further, maybe go deeper on some of the insights you share, what's the best way for them to go about doing so?
Sure. You can find me on LinkedIn, Jessica Schultz, SCHULTZ. I'm sure you'll put it in your show notes or something. And then Amplify is my business, and our website is Amplify Scales because we help you scale. .com. And yeah,
Nice.
so those are the best
Sounds
ways to
good,
find me.
Listen, Jess, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. Thanks for your insight today. We really appreciate you.
Yeah,
And
thank you for
I
having
wish
me.
you
This
all
was
the
fun.
luck and everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
Hey, Jessica dropped some amazing value bomb. I'm telling you, the disco was fun today, man. If you haven't done so already, connect with her on LinkedIn. Tell her that you heard her here on the Sales Evangelist podcast. And one thing that you appreciated when it comes to disco, I love the concept of using the videos at the end. I thought that was really unique. And she shared a lot of different nuggets that you could just soak it up and apply. But the beautiful thing about any podcast episode, you get a lot of info. The critical component is that you apply what you learn. If you can do that on a consistent basis, I promise you great success. As always, thank you so much for listening to our show today. The show, again, is designed to help you to 3 to 5x your sales pipeline and to close twice as many deals. Check out our sponsors and see some of the things that they're offering and see if that can help you to 3x your sales pipeline and to help you close as many deals as twice as many or more. Go ahead and find all that information again in the show notes. As always, thank you so much for being here. Check out our sales training programs to see if they can benefit you and your team. One of our cohorts could help you improve your sales game, could help a team member, could help a friend. Find all the details, again, in the show notes, or you can go ahead and connect with me on LinkedIn, drop me a message, or Instagram or TikTok, and I'll be more than willing to communicate with you there as well. As always, raise your level of thinking, go out and do big things. Thanks so much for watching.